So I was just randomly going through some YouTube videos looking at Mayor Tiffany Henyard and seeing what the latest is going on. I was watching one of the bigger YouTube channels. I think it was the Young Turks. And they were talking about Tiffany Henyard and all the stuff that's been going on. And one of the hosts mentioned something about a mayor in Bridgeport, Connecticut. The person talked about this village that had a mayor that was arrested for corruption, but later, after being arrested and being in jail, was able to be elected again mayor of Bridgeport. I thought we have to talk about this guy because he is still the current mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut. We're talking about Joe Ganim, the guy who went from the golden boy of Bridgeport, Connecticut to sitting in a federal prison and then somehow got himself reelected as mayor. Yes, you heard that correctly. We're going to be talking about his story and we can compare it to Tiffany Henyard. He spent some time in federal prison. Is Tiffany Henyard next? And even a bigger question, is it possible, even if she gets arrested and spends time in prison, can she be elected mayor again? Let's get into it. So Bridgeport, Connecticut has the population of almost 150,000 people. So back in the early 90s, Joe Ganim was this fresh-faced, ambitious lawyer who had his sights on shaking things up in Bridgeport. Now, Bridgeport wasn't exactly the poster child for a thriving city. There were a lot of high unemployment, crime, run-down streets, the usual stuff. But Ganim came in and said, you know what, I got this. Ganim won the mayor's seat in 1991 and got to work. It seemed like he was doing a good job. He cleaned up the downtown area, attracting new businesses, and generally made himself look like the savior of the city. People loved him. He was reelected multiple times, and it seemed like he was on his way to bigger and better things. But as these stories go, not everything came to plan. Here's where the corruption gets uncovered. In 2021, the feds started poking around, and it turns out that Ganim wasn't just cleaning up the city, he was cleaning out the city's pockets as well. Over his time as mayor, Ganim has been taking bribes and kickbacks from contractors. We're talking about over $500,000 in dirty money. Contractors wanted city contracts, no problem. Just slide a little bit of cash in Ganim's way, and he's going to take care of you. That sounds very familiar. It wasn't long before the whole house of cards came crashing down. Ganim got busted, big time. In 2003, he was convicted on 16 federal charges, including racketeering, extortion, and bribery. They threw the book at him. This dude spent 9 years in federal prison. He ended up serving 7 of those years. And just like that, the golden boy was just another felon, and Bridgeport was left picking up the pieces. So you would think that would be the end of Ganim's political career, right? Who comes back from federal prison to be elected to do anything? Well, apparently no one told that to Joe Ganim. After getting out of prison in 2010, he didn't just slink away into obscurity. By 2015, this guy had the audacity to run for Bridgeport again. And this is the crazy part. He won. Yeah, despite being a convicted felon, spent time in federal prison, Ganim managed to convince the voters of Bridgeport to give him another shot. His pitch was all about redemption and second chances, and it actually worked. This blows my mind, actually. He beat the incumbent mayor and got back into the office that he left in disgrace. Talk about a plot twist. But of course, not going to pretend that everything was just smooth sailing after coming back. Ganim's second term was no fairy tale. Almost immediately, he started attracting controversy again. There were questions about campaign finance violations during his 2018 run for governor, which folks wondering if he's back to his old tricks. You know, being a convicted felon and whatnot, taking bribes and lying. Although he wasn't charged with anything this time, the whole thing reeked of deja vu. In the city's finances, let's just say that Bridgeport wasn't exactly thriving under his leadership. The budget was a mess, and a lot of people were wondering if they made a mistake by giving Ganim a second chance. It was clear that while he may not have been back in office, the shadow of his past wasn't going anywhere. But it doesn't seem like anything changes because he's still the mayor. He has continued to serve as mayor, being reelected again in 2019, and continues to hold office as of right now. What are the people in Bridgeport thinking? Now, apparently, doing a little bit of research, on one hand, his supporters credit him for having a deep understanding of Bridgeport's challenges and a genuine commitment to addressing them. They see him as a fighter, despite his imperfections, is willing to roll up his sleeves and tackle the city's problems head on. His recent victory in a contentious election was marred by allegations of absentee ballot fraud, suggests that a significant portion of the electorate still believes in his leadership. Is there anybody else that wants to be mayor of Bridgeport, Connecticut? Is this the only guy? The guy that's been in jail for several years in the federal pen and already has issues in terms of allegations of absentee ballot fraud. Amazing. His critics continue to express concerns about his past and whether he truly has reformed. His administration is still dogged by controversies, like I said earlier, including the absentee ballot scandal, which led to a court-ordered do-over of the Democratic primary. This incident has cast a shadow over his recent election victory, as some viewing it as an embarrassment for the city. Additionally, Ganim's unsuccessful bid to regain his law's license, denied by a panel of Supreme Court justices due to the doubts about his rehabilitation, further fuels skepticism about his character and integrity. But let's compare Joe Ganim and Tiffany Henyard. When it comes to political corruption, Joe Ganim and Tiffany Henyard are two mayors whose actions have placed them squarely in the public eye. Let's dive into some of the details of their respective situations and see how they stack up against each other. So like I said before, Ganim was found guilty of accepting over $500,000 in bribes and kickbacks from city contractors in exchange for favorable treatment when awarded city contracts. And this wasn't just a few isolated incidents. Ganim's corruption was systematic, involving multiple schemes to extort, racketeering, bribery, and fraud. Tiffany Henyard, the current mayor of Dalton, Illinois, has been embroiled in a series of serious allegations that have drawn comparisons to Ganim's crimes. While Henyard has not been convicted yet, the accusations against her are substantial. Henyard is under investigation by the FBI for allegedly misusing village funds for personal luxuries, including spending tens of thousands of dollars of taxpayer money on Amazon and other retail purchases, as well as financing out-of-state trips under questionable pretenses. Also, she's been accused of using village police as her personal security detail, blurring the lines between public duty and personal gain. There's also reports of retaliation against employees who refuse to engage in political work for her. And there's also some accusations of some kickbacks. She doesn't work with businesses that do not work with her, if you know what I'm talking about. Both mayors are accused of exploiting their power for personal gain, whether through financial misconduct or unethical use of public resources. Ganim's corruption directly benefited him financially through a well-documented series of bribes. Henyard's alleged misuse of funds appears to drain public resources for her own benefit and that of her associates. If the allegations against Henyard are proven, she could face criminal charges similar to Ganim faced, potentially leading to imprisonment. The big question here is, like Ganim, could she stage a comeback if she actually is convicted and spend time in jail? You could say the damage to her reputation and the financial health of Dalton may make such a return far more challenging. But if Ganim can do it, is it possible that Henyard could do the same thing? I mean, it's highly unlikely. But think about it. Joe Ganim's story is a wild ride of ambition, downfall, and some unlikely comeback. It shows us that in politics, anything can happen. And sometimes even a convicted felon can get a second chance. So what do you guys think about this story? Let me know. Put in the comments below. Thank you for taking time to watch this video. And I'll see you guys in the next video.